Today, we're going to start an incredible journey through Europe. We're going to visit each of its countries and we'll learn their capitals, their flags, and the most beautiful places on the continent. And we're also going to learn fundamental information about its history, geography, demographics, and economy. So, from Spain to Russia, and from Iceland to Cyprus, welcome to the countries of Europe. To begin our journey, we are going to start out in the west. Portugal is located on the west of the Iberian Peninsula. Its language, unsurprisingly, is Portuguese. During the modern age, Portuguese sailors embarked on journeys of exploration and conquest of new continents around the world, and at one point had established a large global empire. That's why Portuguese is spoken in distant places like Brazil or Mozambique. Portugal is well known for its mild Mediterranean weather, delicious seafood, and beautiful cities like Lisbon or Porto. Right next to Portugal, we find Spain. The capital of Spain is Madrid, and in Spain, there is an official language common to the entire country, Spanish. But there are several co-official languages like Galician, Basque, Catalan, and Valencian. Spanish is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world because Spaniards, like the Portuguese, also explored vast regions of the world during the modern age and created a vast colonial empire throughout North and South America. In fact, the first circumnavigation around the world was accomplished by Spanish sailors. Aside from that, Spain is also famous for its good food, beautiful coastlines, and inspiring cities like Barcelona, Sevilla, or Toledo. Just north of Spain is France, whose capital is in the city of Paris. And I'll bet that all of you know at least something about France, the country of baguettes, croissants, and smelly cheese. In France, the official language is, you guessed it, French. This language is also widely spoken in Canada and Africa because these territories were former French colonies. France also has famous cuisine and beautiful places like Paris or Strasbourg. But the very best France gave to the world was the best general, the smartest guy, the great, the unique, Napoleon Bonaparte. But wait, hold on a second. What is this tiny country between Spain and France? Well, I'll be. It's Andorra. And Andorra's capital is Andorra la Vella. In this case, La Vella doesn't mean beautiful, but rather old, so the meaning is Old Andorra, and its official language is Catalan. However, it's such a small microstate that there's basically just one city, a bunch of beautiful mountains, and, yeah, for the sake of time, that's pretty much it. No more country after that. In the south of France, there's another microstate. It is Monaco. And the capital is Monaco itself. The official language here is French. Monaco is so small that it's actually the second smallest country on the entire planet. And, more surprisingly, it is the richest country in the world by income per capita. That being said, Monaco is famous for its luxurious casinos, yacht-filled harbors, and the millionaire's lifestyle. Also, every year, it holds one of the most impressive F1 urban races. Next, we have Italy, which has the mighty and historic city of Rome as its capital. Its main language here is Italian. Italy houses some of the most marvelous works of art found in the cities of Rome, Florence, or Venice, including masterpieces like David by Michelangelo or The Spring by Botticelli. Italy is also famous for its food, namely pizza and pasta. its good weather, and its crazy drivers. More than 2,000 years ago, the Romans, ancestors of today's Italians, conquered vast regions of the Mediterranean, forming the famous Roman Empire. Back then, Romans spoke Latin, a language that, over the centuries, evolved into a variety of Romanic languages. So that's the reason why some European languages seem so similar. Within Italy, there are two microstates. In the heart of the city of Rome, there is the Vatican City, the smallest and least populated country in the world. Barely 600 people even live there, most of whom are priests and nuns. And its total area is only 0.5 square kilometers, just something like, 50 football fields. So it is really, really small. Its highest authority is the Pope, who is elected for life, so the Vatican is considered an elective monarchy. But despite its tiny size, the Vatican houses incredibly valuable monuments. The majestic St. Peter's Square, designed by the genius Bernini, St. Peter's Basilica, designed by Carlo Maderno, and of course the Vatican Museums, which have an impressive collection of iconic sculptures and paintings. The other microstate surrounded by Italy is San Marino, whose capital is also named San Marino. It is so small that there's really not much to see, but it has many cool castles and some beautiful cities. But despite the name San Marino, don't try to take a trip to the beach because it is very far from the sea. Next up, we have Switzerland, which is known for being the country of Heidi. Its capital is Bern, and despite its small size, there are actually 4 official languages: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. This is due to the fact that Switzerland is actually the Swiss Confederation, one of the few confederations left in the world. It's made of 26 confederated cantons, or states. Each of them holds autonomy over their own region. Switzerland is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, as it is located in the heart of the Alps, so it has breathtaking mountainous landscapes. It is also one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Basically, it's due not only to strong industry, but also due to something called banking secrecy. Even if today banking secrecy is not as secret as it used to be, the country receives fortunes of criminals from all over the world without anyone asking about their origin. And I'm sure that that kind of money can really help develop the Swiss economy. Heading further north and crossing the English Channel, we find the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is kind of a mouthful, so it's usually just called the United Kingdom or Great Britain. Some people refer to it as England, but this term isn't fully accurate. The United Kingdom is made up of 4 territories considered constituted nations: Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. So, England can be considered the origin of this country, but it's only a part of it. The capital of the United Kingdom is London, and English is the most spoken language, although there are other languages like Scottish, Irish, or Welsh. English is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world, since the British were also into exploring and colonizing various parts of the world. Although the country may not be famous for its weather or amazing food, it has many beautiful cities like London or Edinburgh, and interesting historical monuments like the Stonehenge or Hadrian's Wall. Just to the east is Ireland, with its capital in Dublin. The 2 main languages here are Irish and English. Further north, in the middle of the Atlantic, is the island of Iceland. Its capital is Reykjavik, and Icelandic is its official language. Iceland is located just near the Arctic Circle and is a very cold place with harsh winters and gorgeous glaciers. However, it's not only a land of ice, but also a land of fire. The island exists because of plate tectonics. Just in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there's an oceanic ridge that is currently enlarging the Atlantic Ocean floor, and Iceland is just in between. Half of the island is on the Eurasian plate, and the other half in the North American plate, so it's a country where volcanoes are continuously erupting. Along with volcanoes, you'll also find plenty of hot springs and geysers on this island. And very close to Iceland, you'll find Likeland, a mythical island full of likes and subscriptions. Haha. Okay, you got me. This country doesn't really exist, but I just want you to remember how important it is to click like, the notification bell, and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. Small actions like these are fundamental and vital to helping the channel grow. So if you do, thank you very much. Moving on, Norway is another marvelous country. Its capital is Oslo, and the most spoken language is Norwegian. But Sami is also an official language. Sami is the language of the Sami people, a group of Aboriginal people that live in the northern Scandinavia region, some parts in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and a little bit of Russia. Back to Norway, it's one of the richest countries in the world, mainly thanks to oil and gas reserves. But its landscapes are gorgeous. It's a very rugged country with lots of rivers, waterfalls, massive glaciers, and impressive fjords. Right next door is Sweden, with its capital in Stockholm. The city has a beautiful city center, and it hides a secret but amazing museum with a giant wooden warship. It is named Vasa, and it was a flagship built in the 17th century that, sadly, sank during her maiden voyage. In Sweden, they speak Swedish, but like Norway, Sami is also an official language. And in the Åland archipelago, Finnish is also spoken. Sweden is a discreet country, not very populated, but with strong industries that sell around the world. Just south of Sweden is Denmark, with its capital city in Copenhagen. The official language is Danish, and, interestingly, the word Danes is how many people referred to the Vikings in the Middle Ages. Ah, the Vikings. You know them. Those cheerful folks who sailed, traded, and if they could, raided, killed, and burned down villages. The Vikings came from these three Scandinavian countries, but nowadays they all blame each other. The Danes say that they were the good Vikings, the ones who only traded, but the Swedes say no, that they were the good ones. And the Norwegians claim that their Vikings were angels, and it was the Swedes and the Danes who did all the raiding. But at the end of the day, it's impossible to know the truth. But probably all of them traded and raided equally. Just south of Denmark is Germany, whose capital is Berlin. And here, they speak German. In fact, most of the previous languages are actually Germanic languages. In this map, we can see the main family languages of Europe. In red, the Roman languages coming from Latin. In blue, Germanic languages deriving from the Old Proto-Germanic. And in green, most of the Eastern European countries speak Slavic languages, coming from the Proto-Balto-Slavic language, which historians and linguists suspected originated in the steppes of Ukraine and southern Russia. In yellow, brown, pink, black, purple, or orange, you can find other minor families that are not so widely spoken. All of the languages inside the same family are quite similar, so that is the reason why Spanish and Italian seem so similar, or why Swedish and German also sound quite similar. But let's go back to Germany. Germany is a peaceful country, an industrial powerhouse, and a European leader in renewable energy. But in the first half of the 20th century, it wasn't exactly that peaceful. Perhaps you've heard of, I don't know, World War I? Maybe World War II? Sound familiar? However, nowadays, Germany is considered Europeans' economic locomotive. Its industry has some of the world's most renowned companies. Today, it's the second most populated country on the continent. The country itself has fascinating cities like Berlin, Hamburg, or Munich, and it also has some iconic dishes famous around the world. Although we used to call it Holland, and many people still do, this country is actually formerly called the Netherlands, and its capital is the city of Amsterdam. And for clarification, Holland is actually just a region of the Greater Netherlands. In this country, the language is Dutch. And in that language, the word Netherlands approximately translates to low lands. This is a pretty apt name for the country, seeing as it's quite flat, with a highest peak at only 322 meters. And also because much of the country is actually under sea level. The country had a big gulf named IJsselmeer, but in 1932, the Dutch built a giant dike to divide it from the sea, turning it into an artificial lake. Then they started draining the newborn lake so they could use these new lands for agriculture. This is why Netherlands is actually gaining area year after year, even if the new territory is under sea level. But this strategy comes with some risks. If at any time the dike breaks up, well, you can imagine who the Dutch will end up living with.
Oh! Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Absorbent and yellow and porous is he.
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Right next door is Belgium, whose capital is Brussels. In southern Belgium, near France, they speak French, but in the north, they speak Flemish, a dialect of the Dutch language. Belgium has some gorgeous cities like Brussels, Bruges, or Antwerp. Brussels is a city where almost all the European Union institutions are located, like the European Commission or the European Council. The European Union is an international organization that includes most, but not all, of the European nations. Near Belgium is another very small country in the crossroads between France, Germany, and Belgium. It's the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, with its capital in Luxembourg. The languages spoken are Luxembourgish, French, and German. There's not much else to say except that it's one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and one of the reasons behind its prosperity is that it's kind of a tax haven. Companies pay very little taxes, so it's home to many dummy corporations. It makes Luxembourg one of the wealthiest countries in the world and the wealthiest country of the European Union. Back north, Finland is the last of the Nordic countries, and its capital is Helsinki. The main language spoken is Finnish. Finland is quite large considering how small its population is, but that's because most of its area is covered by dense forests and thousands of lakes. It has almost 200,000 lakes, making it the European country with the most total lakes. And right next to Finland is the gargantuan country of Russia, the largest country in the world. Russia's capital is Moscow, and it's not only a European country, but also Asian, spanning across 2 whole continents. 23% of Russian territory is in Europe, while the rest is in Asia. But looking at the population, 75% of Russians live in the European portion, while the rest live in the vast Asian part. In this country, the main language is Russian, but of course there exist dozens of other regional languages. Back in the 20th century, Russia was the heart of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, more commonly known as the Soviet Union, a vast state that controlled many of the countries around it. Even today, Russia controls Kaliningrad, an enclave that is little more than a giant military base placed in former German territory. This historical legacy still causes a lot of tensions with neighboring countries, as you probably know. One of these neighbors is Ukraine, which has Kyiv as its capital. The main language here is Ukrainian, but there's also a Russian-speaking minority. For 2 decades, it was one of the closest allies of Russia. But when Ukraine started looking more at the European Union than to Russia, problems began to arise. And today, in 2023, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is still ongoing, having lasted more than a year now. Actions like this make many of Russia's neighbors fear them, and these countries arm themselves to the teeth. Some of the countries always fearing armed influence from Russia are the tiny Baltic countries: Estonia, with its capital in Tallinn, Latvia, with its capital in Riga, and Lithuania, with its capital in Vilnius. The main languages here are Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian. Tallinn is a beautiful medieval city, while Riga has marvelous examples of Art Nouveau, and Vilnius has many cool sites in its own right. Close to them is Belarus. Its capital is Minsk. Belarus, unlike Ukraine, does actually have good relations with Russia. The official languages are Russian and Belarusian. Belarus is not very well known around the world, since it's ruled by a dictatorial government and receives little tourism, but it nevertheless has some beautiful places, like Rodno or Mir Castle. Further west, we find Poland, with Warsaw as its capital city, and its official language is Polish. Poland was one of the countries that suffered the most during World War II, and Warsaw was almost completely destroyed. But after years of reconstruction, the city center continues to have a unique charm to it. Other cities in the country, like Krakow, are also beautiful, but Poland is also a country where the darker side of human nature is still preserved. Nazis built most of the concentration camps on Polish soil, and these infamous places can still be visited today. Czechia was formerly known as Czechoslovakia when it was united with Slovakia. The official language here is Czech, and Czech's capital city is the mighty Prague, probably one of the most iconic cities of Europe, if not the entire world. This country, despite its small size, is an industrial powerhouse. It holds very important industries and is one of the top car-producing European countries every year. Slovakia, the other half of the former Czechoslovakia, has its capital in the city of Bratislava. The language is Slovakian. Some really cool places like the Orava Castle or the Banská Štiavnica can be found here. Moldova has its capital in the city of Chisinau. A separate Moldovan language doesn't exist, so here they speak Romanian. However, Moldova has a big problem in its interior. A part of the country, known as Transnistria, rebelled against the Moldovan government and declared independence. No country officially recognizes this region as an independent country, but Russia placed some thousands of soldiers in between the two to avoid any Moldovan attempt to retake the territory. But after the war in Ukraine, the Ukrainians declared that if they win the war, they might help Moldova reconquer Transnistria. So, it might be possible that in the near future, the internal conflict flares up yet again. Right next to Moldova is Romania, with its capital in Bucharest. The national language here is Romanian. And Romania has some astonishing nature. The Carpathians and the Danube cross the country, creating inspiring landscapes. The territory was also, in the past, a giant battlefield where the European powers stopped the invaders coming from the Russian steppes, so there are many beautiful castles here. Here, we can also find Transylvania, the mythical place that was home to Vlad the Impaler, considered a national hero in Romania, but a creepy and cruel leader in the eyes of the rest of the world. In either case, he was famously the inspiration for the legend of Count Dracula. He did disgusting things like impaling his enemies, but he wasn't a vampire, and hopefully he didn't drink their blood. Next up is Hungary, with its capital in Budapest. However, I don't want you to get confused. Bucharest is in Romania, but Budapest is in Hungary. Hungarians speak the Hungarian language. Budapest is one of the most impressive capitals of Central Europe. It is interesting to know that the Hungarians are not originally from Central Europe. They migrated in the Middle Ages from the Russian steppes. Then they were known as the Magyars, and they were raiding, pillaging, sacking, and burning everything in their path. But finally, they Christianized, became sedentary, and turned into another regular European kingdom. Austria is another small country found closer to the center of Europe. The capital city here is Vienna. They don't speak Austrian in Austria, but rather German. Although it may seem like a small and friendly country now, in the past it was a massive empire. So, it passed from being one of the biggest powers of Europe to being amongst the smallest, even losing its independence and being annexed by Germany at one point. But today, it is one of the European countries with some of the highest standards of living. Austria has many beautiful places such as Vienna itself, Innsbruck, or the awe-inspiring landscapes of the Alps. But what is this microstate right here? Well, let's see. It's
Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein.
Oh, yeah, that's it. And its capital is Vaduz. But, wait. This is a monarchy led by His Serene Highness, the Sovereign Prince of Liechtenstein. But that's just his title, because his full name is Johannes Hans Adam Ferdinand Alois Joseph Maria Marco de Avellano Pius van Liechtenstein. Oh. Okay, well, it seems like the full name is actually longer than the country itself. Once again, despite its tiny size, it's actually one of the richest countries in the world. Its wealth, like in Monaco, is coming from its small size and population, and due to their ability to act as a tax haven for wealthy individuals. Now, we're moving south to the Balkans. In this area, in the 20th century, students only had to learn a single country, Yugoslavia. But it eventually fragmented into multiple little countries. So where students used to memorize a single country with a single capital, now they have to learn 7. Press F to pay respects to all geography students. These countries are Slovenia, with its capital in Ljubljana, Croatia, with its capital in Zagreb, Bosnia and Herzegovina, with its capital in Sarajevo, Montenegro, with its capital in Podgorica, Macedonia, with its capital in Skopje, Serbia, with its capital in Belgrade, and Kosovo, with its capital in Pristina. All of the countries in this region speak Slavic languages. The people of these countries originally migrated from the steppes during the Middle Ages and settled in the Balkans. So even if each is slightly different, their languages are all pretty similar. All the former Yugoslavian countries are characterized by lush vegetation, impressive mountain ranges, and beautiful historic towns with amazing food. Actually, quick side note, not all countries in the world recognize Kosovo. Between 1998 and 1999, there was a conflict between Serbia and Kosovo. Kosovo eventually declared independence, and while many countries recognize it as an independent country, some others don't. Near the former Yugoslavia is Albania, with its capital in Tirana. In Albania and Kosovo, they speak the Albanese language, and they are the only two Muslim countries of Europe. As you can see in this map, there are a few Muslim-majority regions in Europe. In this area, in the Balkans, it's due to the presence of the Ottoman Empire, a Muslim superpower that ruled the area during the 16th, 17th, 18th, and part of the 19th centuries. An interesting and crazy fact about Albania is that despite its little size, it is the most heavily fortified country in the world. Hundreds of thousands of bunkers were built during Hosea's dictatorship, in the meadows, in the beaches, in the cities, in the mountains, everywhere. But today, they are abandoned, and some of them have been repurposed for more interesting uses. Bulgaria is also nearby. Its capital is the city of Sofia, and here they speak Bulgarian. Bulgaria is the poorest country of the European Union, but not the poorest of Europe. Today, in 2023, Ukraine is the poorest country of the continent, a dramatic situation worsened by the Russian invasion. But, since not all of European countries are in the European Union, Bulgaria is the least developed among those actually in the Union. Bulgaria, like many other countries in need, receives cohesion funds from the EU. This money can be used to improve infrastructure and boost the national economy. And just to the south is Greece, whose capital is Athens. Greeks, obviously, speak the Greek language. This territory is home to the ancient Greeks, a marvelous civilization that created impressive works of art and architecture such as the Parthenon or the Theater of Epidaurus. Moving into the Mediterranean, just south of Italy, there is a small island that is also an independent country. Its name is Malta, with its capital in Valletta, a wonderful city. Here, there are two official languages, Maltese and English. This small nation, consisting of only 3 main islands, is amongst the smallest countries in the entire world. Another independent island is Cyprus, with its capital in Nicosia. Cyprus is home to a dramatic situation. Its population is divided into 2 main ethnic groups, Greeks and Turks, which have had a difficult relationship. In the 70s, pretending to save the Turkish ethnic group, Turkey invaded the northern half of the island, resulting in a partition of this island. Turkey created the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a kind of puppet state that no country in the world but Turkey itself actually recognizes as a sovereign country. In the north, they speak Turkish, while in the south, they speak Greek. And finally, we're going to discover 4 countries that, due to their situation in the limits between Asia and Europe, are sometimes considered Asian and at other times considered European. This is the Caucasus region, and there are 3 small countries. Georgia, with its capital in Tbilisi. Here, they speak Georgian. To the east, there's Azerbaijan, with its capital in Baku, and they speak Azerbaijani. And bordering both of them is Armenia, with its capital in Yerevan. And of course, here they speak Armenian. This country, located in the middle of many Muslim countries, actually became the first state in the world to adopt Christianity as its official religion. And finally, we arrive at Turkey, whose capital is the city of Ankara. Here, of course, they speak Turkish. Some people consider it to be part of Asia because most of its territory is on the Asian continent, while others argue that due to the presence of this small part, it makes it enough to consider it part of Europe. So, what do you think? Do you think that these 4 countries should be considered European or Asian? Or should we consider only some of them European and others Asian? It's kind of complicated, but let us know in the comments what you think. Alright, after all of that, we come to the end. Thank you so much for watching the whole video, and if you want to continue learning more about geography and history, I recommend giving this video a thumbs up, clicking on the notification bell, and subscribing. All of these things greatly help out the channel, and we really appreciate it. And, of course, don't forget to leave a comment letting us know if you enjoyed the video or your favorite thing that you learned. So, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.